For 9 long hours, I did traverse through a tempest's wrath, whilst the cruel grip of arthritis did besiege my knees. A confection of carrot, crafted with mine own hands, doth rest upon the seat of the carriage, a sweet surprise for my beloved daughter on the occasion of her 50th year of life. Yet, as I entered, drenched to the very marrow, a merry sound of laughter did waft forth from the kitchen. Oh, I fervently wish for her downfall. Then we should be free from her incessant summons. My daughter Laurel's voice, as clear as the brightening morn. Her lord did respond, or perchance be gone. Grant us a weekend free from the burdens of guilt. They did share a hearty laugh. Upon the counter, I did leave the cake. Upon the passing of 9 sons, I did alter my testament. 3 weeks hence, they remained in perplexity, pondering the cause of their credit card's rejection. At the age of 78, I have at last discerned that vengeance is a repast most savory when accompanied by the weighty toll of monetary retribution. Before we proceed, I beseech thee to subscribe for tales that do unveil the quiet fortitude residing within us all. Pray, bestow upon us thy words, revealing from whence thou dost gaze upon this spectacle. Mine appellation is Birdie, a widow of 12 winters, a survivor of the cruel scourge of cancer, and a retired keeper of tomes, who yet doth arrange her spices in alphabetical order. Upon the passing of dear Harold, I lingered within our stately 2-story abode in Millbrook, for the echoes of cherished memories did provide a semblance of companionship. Alone I dwell, with his cardigan still draped upon the door of my chamber, whilst the garden he once tended now thrives beneath my diligent care. Lo, the bond with mine only progeny hath waned through the years, though I feigned ignorance of its slow decay. Our weekly parley did wane in length, her voice growing more taut with each utterance of my desire to visit. Their pretexts did burgeon and flourish, akin to the rampant weeds of the field. Labors of duty, the toil of home's transformation, and the gatherings of society that, in their endless whirl, have oft left no chamber for my weary soul. In yestermorn's festive season, they did venture to fair Barbados, forsaking the comforts of home. Lo, the toil hath been most tumultuous, quoth Kent, whilst their Instagram doth reveal images of libations by the shore and voyages neath the setting sun. Upon mine own self did I cast the blame. Excessively yearning, steeped in sorrow, a lamenting spouse ensnared in the shadows of her loss, unable to find solace in the passage of time. Yet, I did dispatch parcels of care regardless. Cookies crafted with tender care, scarves woven by gentle hands, and birthday gifts that swelled in size as my yearning for their gaze did intensify. In sooth, I did transform into the matronly figure, ever poised by the device of communication, preserving the printed tales that would ne'er meet their gaze. What I ne'er suspected, what no mother doth imagine, is how utterly they had turned my love into coin. The credit cards I did assure whilst they did undertake the renovation of their kitchen. The loans for their humble abode, which did, in a most curious fashion, burgeon into a grand 4-bedroom tutor, complete with a heated pool of delight. Lo, the beach house down payment they did secure, whilst proclaiming their inability to afford the plane tickets to grace me with their presence on the day of my birth. The rain doth descend in a manner most altered, no longer a tempest to endure, but rather a gentle reminder that even the fiercest deluges shall, in time, give way to clarity. When the financial dominoes, which I had so meticulously set in place, did commence their fateful descent, and when the lives they had built with such care did begin to shatter in the absence of my quiet aid, I stumbled upon a revelation most unexpected. True strength doth not lie in the trials thou dost bear, but in the steadfastness with which thou dost reject that which is unworthy of thy spirit. Text. Thus did I discover the art of casting aside the meekness of a doormat, and instead to embrace the tempest within me. Lo, the confection did consume 2 days of mine toil to bring forth 3 tiers of carrot cake, adorned with a frosting of cream cheese, embellished with diminutive marzipan carrots, crafted by hands that no longer bend as they once did. Each humble carrot did require near a span of 10 minutes. With deft hands, I roll the marzipan of orange hue, pinching one end to a delicate point, whilst bestowing upon it the minuscule green stems. In fair array, I crafted 22, set in a circle above, akin to a dainty garden fair. Since the tender age of 7, fair Laurel hath cherished the sweet delight of carrot cake, proclaiming at her festive birthday gathering that chocolate, alas, was but a trite choice. Before the break of day, I did arise on the morn of baking, setting forth the butter to soften whilst I grated the carrots, till my wrist did ache most grievously. The recipe, a cherished bequest from my mother, hath been enriched through the passage of many years with a generous measure of cinnamon and a whisper of nutmeg's warmth. Harold, in secret, did pilfer sweet morsels of frosting, believing mine eyes were averted from his mischief. I feign ignorance to the matter at hand. Art thou embarking on such a journey, solitary in thy carriage? Feta inquired, upon my revelation of the scheme I had devised. She didst stand upon her side of the verdant hedge that didst divide our driveways, a secreter in hand, grey curls escaping from beneath her gardening hat. For 32 years we have dwelt as neighbours, ever since she took residence following the dissolution of her marriage. She hath beheld Laurel's ascent through the years, lent her hand in tending to Harold in his waning days, and bestowed upon me casseroles when the cruel hand of cancer rendered me too feeble to prepare sustenance. Verily, 'tis not the Oregon Trail, dear Theta. I shall traverse the great interstate, forsaking the point, dear Birdie. Lo, the tidings of the heavens declare a deluge most profound, stretching forth unto the fair land of Connecticut. And what of thy knees? My knees and I have forged a pact of mutual comprehension. With utmost care, I did place the cake-carrier within my trunk, cradled gently 'twixt two pillows, that it might not slide nor suffer harm. They do lament, yet I turn a deaf ear to their grievances. Withdraw she did, as was her wont, when she perceived that discourse was but a fruitless endeavour. Pray, do take thy device, and summon me with thy voice upon thy arrival. Verily, mother, I jested, though we were of equal years. One must needs keep watch o'er thee. She didst murmur, as she turned once more to her fair roses. At the hour of 4:30 in the morn, I took my leave. My satchel for the night, filled with my cherished cardigan and the lavender balm, once adored by dear Laurel in her tender years. The vessel of warm brew, resting by my side, did still emit its fragrant vapors, suffusing the carriage with the rich aroma of French roast and the delicate dusting of cinnamon I had bestowed upon its surface. The radio did gently play, an olden station where Harold and I once twirled in our humble kitchen's embrace. Lo, the rain did commence just beyond the bounds of Millbrook. Heavy droplets, like the first utterances of a confession, do splatter upon my windshield. Upon mine arrival at the boundary of the state, a relentless deluge did descend, obscuring all sight save for the faint glow of the tail lights of the carriage before me. Mine own windshield wipers did battle against the tempest, their squeaks upon the glass a lament that mirrored the throbbing ache within my knees. Thou shouldst have heeded Theta's counsel, quoth I unto mine own self, as I did adjust mine grasp upon the steering wheel. Mine fingers didst already stiffen, the affliction of arthritis more grievous in the dampness of the air. Yet I pressed on in my journey. 9 hours loomed before me, a trial of fortitude and resolve. Yet what were but a few drops of rain and the sting of sorrow, when set against the wondrous astonishment that graced Laurel's visage upon my arrival at her threshold. As I traversed the road, I envisioned her gaze expanding, hands hastening to cover her lips, that youthful exclamation of joy, which she occasionally allowed to slip forth when her heart brimmed with delight. Mother, prithee, what brings thee hither? And then the embrace, a true and heartfelt clasp I had not known in a time longer than I would fain confess. The thoroughfare did extend before mine eyes, a stream of darkened stone vanishing into veils of weeping skies. As chariots of steel did race by, they cast forth torrents of liquid, momentarily obscuring mine vision. I didst slow mine pace to 55, then to 50, bending mine form as though those added inches might perchance enhance mine sight. The cake did rest, ensconced within its noble carrier, upon the seat of the chariot, a passenger's delight. Mine own corporeal embodiment of affection and aspiration. At a wayfarer's halt in fair Massachusetts, I didst extricate myself from the chariot, wincing as my knees did protest the motion. Within the harsh glow of the fluorescent-lit chamber, I found myself in the privy, applying the icy balm to my weary joints, the medicinal scent intertwining most disagreeably with the sterile fragrance of the industrial air-freshener. A watchful attendant beheld me with eyes full of concern. "A lengthy journey doth await," she inquired, presenting unto me a paper towel. In the midst of our journey, I did respond, striving for a smile that, perchance, appeared more akin to a grimace. "The tempest," she did declare, "is fated to grow more fierce. Thou mayest wish to bide thy time." Yet, to tarry was not a choice bestowed upon me. Birthdays, alas, do not defer their coming, and I didst time my entrance just ere the repast that fair Laurel had spoken of, to be shared with a select company of friends. In silence, I ventured forth, for I had not conveyed my intent to her, nor exchanged a word in the 3 days that elapsed since the resolution to embark upon this journey took root in my heart. The element of surprise proved most vital. It would sever the bonds of formality that hath insidiously entwined our bond, transcending the meticulous timetables and constraints that now define our encounters. Upon resuming my journey, I didst raise the warmth to vanquish the cold that had taken refuge within my very bones. The clock upon the dashboard didst declare the hour of 9:47 in the morn. 5 hours more dost remain. Assured that the heavens would not delay my course, I did swallow an ibuprofen, dry as the parched earth, grimacing at its bitter taste. To divert mine thoughts from the anguish, I permit my mind to meander to yesteryear's celebrations of birth. At the tender age of 6, fair Laurel did beam with joy, her countenance aglow as she did unveil the dollhouse, a labor of love wherein I had toiled for many a moon, adorning it with delicate curtains stitched by hand and tiny frames that held the visages of kin. Laurel, at the tender age of 12, doth extinguish the flickering flames upon a chocolate confection, artfully crafted in the likeness of a towering stack of tomes. Lo! Her phase of Nancy Drew doth flourish in its full vigor. Lo! Fair Laurel at the tender age of 16, did feign discontent with the necklace I had toiled for months to procure, yet lo and behold, she adorned herself with it daily for the span of 2 years hence. When did the tides of fate take a turn? When did mine entreaties transform into mere disturbances, and mine appearances into burdensome duties? Mine own existence doth dwell in a realm betwixt vexation and shame. In truth, I could not discern the precise instant. Perchance, after the passing of Harold, when sorrow rendered me more in want than I had ever known, or when she did wed Kent, whose lineage boasted a vacation abode and membership to the country club, thus rendering my humble colonial a mere quaintness rather than a haven of warmth. Or perchance when illness did beset me, and the spectre of her duty to tend to my plight loomed o'er her meticulously fashioned existence. The rain didst grow in fervor as I did cross into Connecticut, drumming upon the roof like fingers most impatient. A great truck did twist and turn, its form a perilous sight, compelling the throng of carriages to inch forth round the valiant emergency chariots, their lights a-dancing upon the glistening, rain-kissed ground. Lo, my trusty guide of navigation hath recalibrated, bestowing upon me an additional span of 45 minutes ere I reach my destined abode. By the early hour of the afternoon, mine own body did compose a lament of grievances most profound. Lo! My lower back doth spasm, my neck is stiff as a statue, and my knees do radiate pain, even in the face of medicaments. Yet, resolve doth serve as a balm for the soul's afflictions. Through tempestuous storms I did traverse, to bring fair Laurel to her dance's grand display. Through tempestuous waters did she traverse, to attain the honor of her college graduation. A mere tempest and the ache of joints shall not deter me henceforth. The suburbs of Hartford didst emerge through the rain as a fleeting mirage. Familiar names of streets upon the exit signs dost offer sweet reassurance that mine journey draweth to its close. I gazed upon mine own visage in the looking-glass of the chariot's rear. Her crimson hue hath waned, and tresses lie subdued upon one side, a victim of her repose against the casement. Verily, I would adorn myself anew ere I made my entrance as I approached the fair realm of Laurel's subdivision. The rain didst lighten for a fleeting moment, as though bestowing upon me a brief glimpse of clarity. The abodes did stand, noble and apart, each adorned with verdant lawns, undaunted by the tempest's breath. Lo! The tutor of Laurel, the grandest upon the cul-de-sac, did shine with a warm radiance against the encroaching dusk of the afternoon. Through yon front window I beheld a dance of shadows, flitting to and fro with a restless grace. Preparations for a birthday, I did surmise, for a revelry to which I had not been beckoned to partake. I didst park across the thoroughfare, not within their own drive's embrace. Part of the wondrous revelation. With utmost care, I did raise the cake-carrier, casting a final glance to ensure the marzipan carrots remained whole, ere I ventured forth into the rain. The passage to their threshold spanned but 20 feet, yet by the moment I arrived, my raincoat was thoroughly drenched, with droplets cascading down my neck and into my prudent footwear. I did not sound the bell's sweet chime. The portal stood ajar, as it ever did when they awaited the arrival of esteemed guests. Lo, a celebration of birth, yet I find myself absent from the revelry. Upon crossing the threshold, I found the ground beneath my feet awash with water, gathering in pools most unwelcome. The abode was suffused with a fragrant essence of rosemary and garlic, a savory dish a-roasting, evoking memories of the feasts that Laurel and Kent did graciously host for their esteemed companions. Assemblies from which I had been long forsaken, years past. Their abode stood as a testament to meticulous selection. The venerable console table, which did cost me more than mine inaugural chariot. The abstract creations, which fair Laurel did assure me held great worth, didst appear as though conjured by the hand of a mere child. The meticulously curated portraits of kin, yet devoid of mine, a solitary absence amidst the cherished visages. The marble floor of the foyer did shine, beneath the gentle glow of recessed lights, cool and unblemished, gainst the traces of my dampened steps. In a moment of doubt, I found myself beset by uncertainty. Shall I proclaim mine presence, make mine identity known? The cake didst rest heavily in mine arms, the weight of expectation more burdensome than its 3 layers. From yonder kitchen did voices waft, laughter interspersing the discourse that danced twixt my daughter and her lordly spouse. With measured steps, I did advance, rehearsing mine own entrance with care. Lo and behold! Oft repeated, yet still I say, joyous birth anniversary to thee, my dear heart. Excessively sweetened, indeed. Perchance a mere greeting would be enough. As I did prepare to turn the corner, lo! I heard mine own name called forth. Once more did mother summon me this morn, quoth Laurel, her tone bearing that sharpness I had discerned of late. Thrice hath this week befallen upon me. What doth she desire this time? Kent's voice, tinged with ennui, did softly echo. I stood as still as the winter's breath. The cake-box doth grow weighty in mine embrace, as it ever hath been, to discourse on naught for the span of an hour, to call to mind her solitude, to cast upon me the weight of guilt for daring to tread my own path in this mortal coil. Mine breath didst catch within my throat. Alas, I ought to have departed in that moment, to have turned mine back and strode forth, preserving my honor unscathed. Yet my feet appeared as if they were bound to the earth, my form powerless to heed the summons to withdraw. At the very least, she did not impose upon thee for thy birthday, quoth Kent. Dost thou recall the year past? She did abide for 5 days. Pray, do not remind me. I was compelled to seek refuge in our chamber, yearning for but a moment of tranquillity. Each utterance struck as though a tangible blow were dealt. Upon the threshold I did remain, as the rain did cascade from my garment, falling upon their gleaming wooden floor with a gentle grace. She didst speak of a possible visit in the near future, quoth Laurel, as she did continue. I did declare unto her that we were occupied with our labors. Well met. Lo, the final thing we desire is for her to appear without warning. The jest, perchance, would have brought forth mirth, were it not so grievously tragic. I envisioned them as they surely ought to be. Lo, Laurel doth stand at the kitchen's aisle, with knife in hand, cleaving the verdant bounty of the earth. Kent doth stir a potion upon the hearth. Their home-bound existence, a grand display for one another, rather than a true manifestation of affection's gentle embrace. By heaven, I do pray she meets her downfall, quoth Laurel with sudden fervor. And my heart did cease to beat. Then we should be free from her incessant summons. Kent didst laugh. Or perchance be lost amidst the shadows. Grant us a weekend free from the burdens of guilt's relentless pursuit. Their mirth did intertwine, a blend of venom and nectar sweet. The box of confections did quake within my grasp. Mine own daughter, the very child whom I did nurse through the trials of chicken-pox, and to whom I did hasten in the dark of night to seek aid, whose scientific endeavors I did salvage in the witching hour, whose shattered hearts I did soothe with sweet cream and tender forbearance, hath but now uttered a wish for mine own demise. And her lord, the man who had vowed to cherish the kin he was to embrace, didst laugh. Mine memory doth not recall the moment of mine own choosing to depart. Mine own form didst bear me forth into the kitchen, where they did stand. Lo, fair Laurel doth chop the verdant vegetables, whilst Kent, with fervent hand, stirs a concoction upon the stove, just as I had envisioned in my mind's eye. Their visages, upon beholding my presence, did pale as shock did siphon the hue from their countenances, their lips parting in flawless orbs of dread. In that fleeting instant, time didst hold its breath. In their gaze, I beheld the light of understanding take flight, as thoughts did race like swift steeds, striving to ascertain the measure of mine ear's reception and the remedies that might be wrought to mend the breach. I beheld Laurel's hand ascend to her delicate throat. A token she hath inherited from my being, a deed we performed when language did forsake us. I spake not, nor did I weep. With gentle care, I set the cake-box upon the counter, then did I turn and retrace my steps through the threshold whence I had come. Mother! Laurel didst call after me. Mother, I beseech thee, tarry a moment. Yet I found myself once more beneath the weeping sky, hastening with a swiftness that belied the frailty of my aged limbs. To my chariot I return, to the path that hath led me to this very place. O fair Birdie, I beseech thee! The voice of Kent did join the harmonious throng that did call upon my name. We harbored no intent. With a resolute hand, I did shut the door of the chariot upon their feeble justifications, and turned the key in the ignition, my fingers now steady and unshaken. Oft doth clarity emerge when all doth crumble round us. The wipers of the windshield didst sweep away the falling rain. Steadfast in their unyielding pursuit. Departed, arrived, verity, affection, apathy. In yonder rear-view looking-glass, I beheld them standing in the drive, fair Laurel with arms enfolded about her form, whilst noble Kent placed his hand upon her shoulder. They appeared diminutive and of little consequence, fading into the distance as I did depart. I did not cast mine eyes behind once more. Hath there been a soul who hath betrayed thy trust in a manner most grievous, one that thou couldst not dismiss from thy heart and mind? Pray, lend thine ear and share thy tale in the comments below, whilst thou dost subscribe. Oftentimes, the most arduous task doth lie in departing from that which inflicts upon us pain. The rain didst grow in fervor as I approached the highway, as though the very essence of nature sought to cloak my hasty withdrawal. Mine garments did cling to my flesh, chilled and most discomforting. Yet the unease appeared far removed, a mere shadow to the emptiness that did swell within my breast. The vacant passenger seat, bereft of its cherished burden, sought out Laurel amidst the dim light of the grey afternoon. Lo! My device did stir within its satchel, first once, then twice, and anon it buzzed incessantly as messages and summons did cascade forth. Lo! I required not the gaze upon the screen to discern it was Laurel, in a fervent haste, endeavouring to mend that which was beyond repair. Without a glance, I didst silence it. Whither dost one venture when the abode hath been unveiled as naught but a mirage? When the affection thou hast relied upon doth prove but a fleeting fancy, the bond thou hast tended unveils itself as naught but a duty. The thoroughfare lay extended before mine eyes, a silken thread of potentialities, none of which did guide me back to the verities I held an hour past. In my chariot, I did wander without purpose, until the beacon of fuel did illuminate, a warning of my impending plight. The steadfast luminescence, a token that amidst the tempest of the heart, the affairs of the world still call for our heed. A humble inn didst emerge through the weeping skies. Lo, a humble abode by the wayside, adorned with relics of yore and beset by the spectre of dubious tidiness. The flickering vacancy sign did appear as an ill portent, proffering not merely refuge, but a shroud of obscurity. The chamber bore the scent of cleansing potions and the remnants of bygone smokes. The flowery tapestry doth but feebly mimic joy's embrace. Upon the precipice of the bed I did repose, clad still in garments soaked, mine gaze fixated upon the wallpaper, until mine eyes did blur and lose their sharpness. For the first time since mine ears did catch those woeful utterances, I permitted mine heart to bear the full burden of what hath transpired. This matter transcends a mere unkind utterance, born of fleeting vexation. This moment doth mark the zenith of years spent in quiet neglect, of excuses laid bare as the sun, of a bond that hath withered whilst I, in vain, didst nourish it with the waters of hope. My daughter did not merely spurn my approach. She hath cast aside my station in her existence. Upon that fateful eve, mine device didst vibrate 17 times. I did not respond. With the dawn's gentle light, the morn did creep through the frail drapery of the humble lodging. In garments I did slumber, too benumbed to heed the call of comfort's gentle embrace. At the stroke of 2, mine device did cease its clamorous din. My power doth wane, consumed by an unceasing tide of notifications. In the cruel glare of the chamber's illumination, mine own visage appeared but a stranger to mine eyes. Mine eyes appeared as vacant orbs, the creases round my lips more profound. Upon the morn, I did cleanse myself and donned the garments of yestereve, then didst peruse mine device. 27 calls unheeded, 42 missives sent forth. O fair Laurel, dearest mother, I beseech thee, return our call forthwith. Thou hast misapprehended. Fair Laurel, we were but jesting in mirthful play. It was not concerning thee. O Kent, fair Birdie, grant us leave to elucidate our plight. O, fair Laurel, dearest mother, my heart is heavy with concern. Wherefore art thou, Laurel? This doth not seem just. Thou dost fill mine heart with dread. Good Kent, prithee, grant us word of thy safety. Laurel, shouldst thou fail to return my call, I shall be compelled to summon the constabulary forthwith. The final utterance was but a ruse. Laurel would not venture to unveil the cause for her aged mother's hasty retreat, wrought with disquietude. I didst turn the device upon its face, and pondered mine choices. To mine abode I could retreat, and feign that naught did transpire. To confront them I might, and seek an apology fair, or perchance I shall choose a path most divergent. This was not the maiden vexation. There had been lesser treacheries I didst overlook. The Christmas they did cancel, citing Kent's affliction with the flu, yet they did post images on Instagram from a ski resort in Vermont. Upon the weekend's arrival, when my humble toiletries were transported from the guest's chamber to a closet, ere the friends did arrive. The token of celebration I dispatched to the niece of Kent hath been met with a missive of gratitude, addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Richards, as though penned by unfamiliar hands. Those fleeting instances I once deemed mere trifles have now woven themselves into a tapestry of undeniable significance. Rather than steering my chariot towards mine abode or returning to Laurel's, I didst input a fresh direction into my guiding device, a dwelling in White Plains, near enough to procure that which I sought from home, yet distant enough from Laurel to preserve a measure of separation, a realm where I might ponder free from the burdens of habit. Once more, the device of communication did sound its call. Not Laurel nor Kent, but Theta doth reign supreme. O Birdie, I give thanks to the heavens above. Since yestereve, I have been calling forth thy presence. Art thou in good health? Lo, Laurel did summon me forth. It hath been declared that an event did transpire. I did hear them. Theta, I did overhear my daughter utter a wish most dire, that I might meet my end in a crash most tragic upon the road. 3 heartbeats worth of silence doth linger. Whither dost thou wander? At last, she did inquire, her voice strained with a wrath held in check. To White Plains I make my way. Well met. Pray, do not venture thither once more. Return to thy abode when thou art prepared. Lo, I possess that vessel of Glenfiddich, which Harold bestowed upon me ere he departed this mortal coil. Verily, I do believe the hour hath come to unveil it. Forsooth, in that moment, as I did enter Laurel's kitchen, a smile didst tug at the corners of my lips for the very first time. Not joy's sweet embrace. It was yet too early for such a venture. Yet, the acknowledgment of a verity I had neglected. Though I may have lost a daughter dear, yet solitude did not accompany my grief. In but a few days hence, I shall return to mine abode, I did declare. Preserve the chill of the Scotch, I beseech thee. Thou dost not partake of Scotch in such a manner, thou scoundrel, quoth Theta. And the customary nature of our jests didst resemble the first firm earth I had encountered in the span of 22 hours. I didst sever the ties and pressed onward, the highway unfolding before mine eyes as a query I was not yet prepared to respond to. The rain hath purged all things, rendering them pure and bright anew. The realm doth renew in a manner I have yet to perceive. Yet, amidst the anguish and the distant sky, a resolute fragment of my being didst commence to ponder what fate might unfold henceforth. Not yet shall forgiveness grace this heart. Perchance not evermore, yet something else doth linger. 3 days spent within the abode bestowed upon me a sensation I had not known for many a year. Isolation devoid of desolation. No summons to heed, no visage to uphold. At a mall not far from here, I did procure garments anew. Items of a practical nature. There exists not a garment more fair than the floral raiments that dear Laurel oft did propose to enhance my visage. Mine device lay hushed, save for the summons of Theta, who dost deliver tidings of my abode, and my feline companion, Mr. Darcy. Thou art aware that they didst arrive here, dost thou not? Theta did proclaim upon our evening discourse. Lo, Laurel and Kent did knock upon thy door, then mine, upon the dawning of their realization that thou wert not at home. What tidings didst thou impart unto them? That thou wert in safety and wouldst reach out to them when prepared. Kent did attempt that beguiling artifice of his. Though age hath graced my brow, I am not devoid of wit. Upon the fourth morn of my sojourn, I did summon mine bank. Pray, grant me knowledge of the accounts wherein I am named as guarantor, I did declare, having first confirmed my identity. The servant of the customer didst pause in uncertainty. Pray, dost thou refer to accounts shared, fair Mrs. Matt? Nay, accounts wherein I have bestowed mine financial support. Credit cards, loans, and all manner of dealings where mine own assets serve as surety. What ensued was a revelation more grievous than the sting of Laurel's unkind words. 4 cards of credit, their limits combined, doth sum to $75,000. All assured by my hand. A sum of $30,000, borrowed 2 years past, as a personal loan. A pledge of equity upon their dwelling fair. Pray, when were these arrangements wrought? With trembling hands, I did beseech voice steady. Lo, the most ancient account of credit was unfurled 8 years hence. The latest occurrence did transpire 6 moons past. 6 moons past, when fair Laurel didst call, her voice a river of tears, lamenting Kent's woes in trade. I, in my kindness, did offer gold, yet she, with steadfast heart, didst refuse, proclaiming, We seek not charity, dear mother, but rather thy moral support. What she truly meant was that my name upon a parchment bore greater worth than mere words of comfort. Upon my departure from the bank, I didst summon forth the counsel of Harold's erstwhile investment adviser. Good morrow, Mrs. Matt. What a delight it is to behold thee once more. Hast it truly been 5 years, or perchance more? Pray, I beseech thee, a full reckoning of mine possessions. All that Harold hath bequeathed, and all that I have gathered since. That very afternoon, he did send forth the summary. The colonial dwelling in Millbrook, now valued thrice the sum we once paid for it. In sooth, Harold's life insurance, a treasure I did invest rather than squander. The pension of my learned mentor, and stocks that did flourish through prudent stewardship. Heirlooms of kin, such as my mother's sapphire ring, and the cherished collection of pocket watches belonging to Harold's grandfather. In sum, a bounty exceeding $1.9 million, nearly sufficient for the seaside abode in Rhode Island that Laurel and Kent did aspire to, whilst lamenting their inability to procure passage to visit me for the Christmas tide. The beach house. Lo, the last fragment found its rightful abode when I did summon Kent's mother, fair Martha, with whom I had ever held a courteous, though remote, bond. Birdie, how delightful thy call regarding the seaside abode. I know Laurel doth brim with excitement. The seaside abode. I did keep my tone most even. The one they are to seal upon next month, quoth Kent. The loan bestowed upon him by his father and myself did indeed aid in the fruition of our endeavor. Yet, I perceive thy contributions as well. I was not, at least not with full awareness, but I commenced to grasp the significance of my fiscal steadiness in their existence. That eve, I found myself upon the hotel bed, encircled by scrolls and annotations, weaving a tapestry of financial and emotional machinations so calculated it could only be deemed intentional. Each extraction from my treasury of emotions didst mirror a depletion from mine coffers. Each forsaken rendezvous did bring forth a fresh entreaty for aid. Each rejection of mine own significance in their existence was coupled with an augmentation of mine role in their fiscal designs. I pondered upon Harold, how meticulously he had crafted our bastion of security. How proud he had been to leave me in a state of provision. Take heed of Laurel, he did utter in those last days. Yet, guard thy heart against her wiles. He had perceived what I had been loath to admit. In the looking-glass of the hotel, I beheld not merely a foolish old woman, blind to treachery, but the spectre of one far more resolute. One who hath borne the weight of nurturing a child in solitude, whilst the valiant Harold did serve in distant lands, who didst attain a master's degree at the age of 4 decades, all whilst toiling in the realm of labour, who hath confronted the spectre of cancer with a valour surpassing that which she now doth summon to face the tumult of familial discord. I did make one last call that eve to Harriet McGill, my companion at the bridge table for 65 years, and the most relentless purveyor of estate law in 3 counties. "I must needs behold thee," quoth I, when she did respond. "It pertaineth to my testament." "Doth this concern Laurel?" spake Harriet with her usual candour. "Indeed, and it doth concern me, and the passage of time," she did answer. "My chamber, Thursday at the 10th hour of the morn." Upon severing the call, an unfamiliar sensation did wash over me. Not the pang of treachery nor the void of sorrow, but a serene and lucid assurance. This matter was not of vengeance, but of justice, commencing with the lady reflected in the glass. Harriet's chamber boasted vistas of the coast and furnishings ill-suited for prolonged repose. Much like Harriet herself, the ambience dissuaded any hint of frailty. At the age of 72, she still adorned her tresses in a fiery hue and donned footwear that elevated her stature by 3 inches, adding to her already formidable presence. "Thou dost appear altered," quoth she in lieu of a greeting. "Indeed, I am transformed." With a single nod, she beckoned to a chair. "Pray, enlighten me." And so I did, recounting all from the arduous 9-hour journey to the discourse above, and the revelations of finance. Harriet, with quill in hand, took notes in silence, her visage steadfast, even amidst the most harrowing of truths. And lo, she inquired upon my completion, desiring to alter her testament in its entirety. Counsel, she sought, on how to withdraw her fiscal support whilst safeguarding herself from liability's grasp. Harriet's smile, though fleeting, bore the mark of sincerity. "Forsooth, I have awaited many a year for thee to utter such words. Let us commence with the testament." For the span of 2 hours, we did reshape the design of mine estate. The dwelling upon Maple Street, the trove of investments, and all manner of financial treasures shall be bestowed upon the Millbrook Women's Shelter, a haven where I lent my hand in service after Harold's passing. My cherished possessions shall be apportioned among dear companions, with particular gifts designated for Theta and other kind souls who have shown true compassion. "And what of Laurel?" inquired Harriet, her quill poised in anticipation. With great deliberation did I ponder. My trove of recipes, nestled within my tomes, shall serve as a window for her to glimpse the mother she so carelessly cast aside and the life she deemed unworthy. Harriet, with a quill in hand, took note. Delightfully vindictive, I must say, and I grant my approval. Then, we turned our gaze to the matter of financial unraveling. Harriet summoned her companion, a sage in the realm of banking law, and together we forged missives to sever my bonds from the credit accounts of Laurel and Kent. Henceforth, with utmost immediacy, we have imparted to their mortgage purveyor the tidings of my withdrawal from the secondary assurance upon their dwelling's loan. Accounts shared, which had slipped from my memory, have been severed, whilst fresh accounts, solely in mine own name, have been established. In but a few days, they shall perceive the weight of this decision. A forewarning from Harriet's consort hath been given. Credit thresholds may dwindle, perchance to naught, and the terms of loans may be subject to re-evaluation. "I comprehend," quoth I, inscribing yet another parchment with hands unwavering. "The closing of the beach abode shall most assuredly falter absent thy financial support," spake Harriet. I recalled the dulcet tones of Laurel. "Heaven grant she falters," mused I. My mind wandered to their mirth, the nonchalant malice of those who regarded me as naught but a means to an end, rather than a soul of worth. Thus it was, I did respond. Ere I took my leave from fair Harriet's chamber, I resolved upon one more course. I summoned forth Martha Richards anew. "I wish to inform thee," quoth I, "that I have withdrawn my financial assurances from the accounts of Laurel and Kent." "I comprehend not," she did answer, her brow furrowed in perplexity. "What assurances?" "The very ones they have employed to secure credit and loans, including, I do surmise, the loan for the seaside abode. Hark, dear Birdie, let silence reign. They did proclaim that thou wouldst furnish half the down payment, thus leading us to consent to lend the other half." A bitter laugh did escape my lips. "Yet, verily, I am not, nor shall I be," I mused. "Thou ought to be informed ere the closing." That eve, within the confines of mine hotel chamber, I felt not triumph nor guilt, but rather a peculiar calm clarity. Upon the hour of twilight, I did summon forth the service of my chamber, a rare indulgence I seldom permitted mine own self, and partook of my repast whilst gazing upon the resplendent descent of the sun o'er the alabaster horizon. My device had been in a state of fervent agitation throughout the day, beset by calls from nameless numbers, which I surmised to be Kent, employing various means to make contact. At last, I did respond to one such call. "What hast thou done?" Kent's voice trembled with a disquiet more akin to panic than to true concern. "Greetings, Kent," I replied. "Verily, I am in good spirits, and I thank thee for thy inquiry. The bank hath summoned forth all our credit cards, proclaiming that the accounts are to be restructured, for thou hast withdrawn thy guarantee. The mortgage company doth echo this sentiment. Furthermore, Martha did call regarding the beach house. Indeed, I did converse with her. How curious it is that thou didst inform thy parents of my supposed contribution to the down payment, a matter we have never broached in discourse. It was but a misapprehension, he did declare with haste. Pray, we must discourse upon this matter. Whatever thou dost believe thou heard that fateful day, I am well aware of what I did hear, and the knowledge I have gleaned since doth render it evident that it was not a fleeting folly, but a recurring theme. Birdie, I beseech thee, no more of Kent, no more of deceitful machinations, no more assurances, no more underwriting a life that doth cast me aside, save when my credit's worth is sought. Convey to fair Laurel a missive from my heart. The lady she longed to see falter hath at last stirred from her slumber. I did sever the line and cast aside his number. Then I did open my trusty device and secure passage home for the morrow's dawn. 9 hours of travel had bestowed upon me a moment of clarity. A flight of but 90 minutes would bear me forth to a resolution. As I did stow my fresh garments within my weathered valise, I felt not the weight of youth nor the burden of age, neither the taste of triumph nor the sting of defeat, but rather a sensation most singular. Unfettered and free, unshackled from the delusions of my daughter's affection, liberated from the fetters of coin that had tethered me to those who harbored ill will, unfettered to pen anew the concluding verses of my existence, unbound by duty to those who had forsaken their claim upon my soul. The tempest that once shadowed my path to glory hath yielded to azure heavens, as though the cosmos itself didst grant its benediction upon my fresh enlightenment. At the age of 78, I have at last discerned that certain tempests are not to be weathered. Nay, they are to cleanse that which no longer merits its place. Hast thou ever faced the arduous decision, twixt tranquility and kin? Subscribe and lend thy favor if this strikes a chord within thee. At what juncture wouldst thou have drawn the line? Share thy thoughts below and pursue the path where consequences unfold. Upon mine return, home didst feel transformed. The well-known chambers of mine colonial abode retained the same furnishings, the same portraits, and the same vista of the maple tree that Harold did plant upon the birth of Laurel. Yet I traversed these realms as one reborn, a lady who hath at last discerned her own value. Good sir, Darcy did greet me with his customary indifference, yet soon took his place upon my lap, as if to guard against my fleeting absence. Feta, with the promised Scotch in hand, joined me upon the back porch as the twilight draped its gentle veil over the garden. "They have been calling upon me daily," quoth she, as she swirled the amber nectar within her glass. "Laurel doth sound less in worry and more in ire now." The financial missives must have begun their arrival, I did reply. Theta's brows did arch in question. "What, pray tell, didst thou do?" I did confide in her all that lay upon my heart. Text, the altered will, the forsaken assurances, the unveiling of the seaside abode. Upon my conclusion, Theta did lift her chalice in a mute salute. "Harold would surely take pride," quoth she with simplicity. Upon the 3rd day hence my return, there came a missive most weighty. Upon thick cream parchment did I behold the precise script of Laurel, inscribed upon the envelope. Formality graced it, a tone foreign to our bond. "Dearest mother, I find myself in a tempest of uncertainty. Thy silence doth echo, for our calls go unanswered. The bank hath declared our credit limit diminished, for thou art no longer our guarantor. Lo, Kent's mother doth declare that thou didst inquire of her regarding the loan we secured from them in the year past. Whatever thy ears did capture on that fateful day, thou hast misinterpreted. We were but jesting, indulging in dark humor after a week fraught with stress. Thou art aware of the manner in which Kent and I do converse at times. Pray, do call upon us. Our hearts are heavy with worry for thee. With love, Laurel. No words of contrition, no recognition of the truth, merely a shroud of gaslighting cloaked in feigned concern. In a tempest of financial dread, masked as concern for kin, I did fold the missive with care and laid it within the box that housed the tender sketches of Laurel's youth, thus adding this last testament to the annals of our bond. As twilight descended, Kent did summon me from yet another fresh number, proclaiming, "The closing of the beach house shall be upon us next Friday," uttered without the courtesy of a greeting. "The merchants shall not grant extension once more. We dost require the guarantee to be restored by the morrow of Monday." Greetings, Kent. Alas, that shall not be within the realm of possibility. O Birdie, I beseech thee, act with reason. This abode of ours doth embody our most cherished dreams. Forsooth, we have toiled and labored towards this noble end for many a year. Fascinating, indeed. In those very years, thou didst confide in me thy inability to procure tickets for the skies, that I might behold thee at Christmas time. Hark, let there be silence henceforth. That was most unlike any other. To journey forth in the season of festivity doth require a purse most heavy. Verily, a beach house of 1.5 million doth not exist. Fare thee well, Kent. I didst hang up, feeling neither satisfaction nor remorse, but rather a tranquil certainty that at last I stood upon firm foundation. The following week didst bring forth a mounting despair. Epistles from fair Laurel, each one less a plea for amends and more a cry for coin's swift arrival. Messages of the voice from Kent, a dance of allure entwined with subtle barbs of accusation. Even summons from their companions, souls I had encountered but briefly at gatherings where I was presented as Laurel's mother, rather than by mine own name. In a sudden tempest of worry for mine own welfare, a missive from their mortgage company hath arrived at mine abode, beseeching the verification of mine withdrawal as a secondary guarantor. Their purveyors of credit did likewise. Each day, the missives of their fiscal folly didst grace my mailbox, a testament to their fragile edifice of deceit. Each missive doth confirm how deeply they have ensnared me in their fiscal web, all without mine own informed assent. Upon the day of Wednesday, a missive did arrive from a number most mysterious. "Mother, I beseech thee. Alas, the beach house shall slip from our grasp. All that gold, squandered in vain, is that which thou dost desire?" Though I offered no reply, the missive did illuminate a matter of great import. Even now, after all that hath transpired, Laurel's heart doth linger upon the abode, rather than the bond that once flourished. In all her missives, she ne'er did touch upon the harsh words I had chanced to overhear, save to cast them off as a jest I had misapprehended. On the morn of Friday, I chanced upon Zoe, the dearest companion of Laurel since their days of scholarly pursuit, at a quaint café within the town's embrace. I did summon her, not the reverse, I assure thee. "I thank thee for thy presence," quoth I as we took our ease with our cups of coffee. Zoe appeared most uneasy. "Lel doth fret most grievously for thee, dear Birdie. She dost claim thou hast misconstrued a matter, and now thou art meting out punishment upon her." A smile did grace my lips. "Did she impart unto thee the nature of my misunderstanding?" "She did mention that thou didst eavesdrop upon a private discourse and didst take it amiss. Upon mine ears did fall the lament of my daughter, wishing ill upon my chariot of steel, that it might meet its doom and take me hence." With a countenance untroubled, I inquired, "Pray tell, Zoe, how ought I to have received such tidings?" Her gaze did widen, a reflection of disbelief. "Nay," she did not utter, "such words could not have crossed my lips." Yet verily they had, and her consort did find mirth in the dark jest. I took a measured sip of my brew, pondering, did she also reveal that they have long employed me as a guarantor of credit? That they did borrow coin from Kent's progenitors for a down payment upon a seaside abode, whilst proclaiming to me their inability to grace my hearth for the Christmas tide? Zoe's silence spoke volumes, an answer profound enough to pierce the veil of pretense. "I come not to bemoan my fate," I did declare, "but rather to bestow upon thee this token." With a gentle motion, I did slide an envelope across the table's expanse. "It is an invitation to the celebration of my 79th year, which shall unfold in the coming month. I would be honored by thy presence. Know this, Laurel and Kent shall not grace the occasion. As Zoe departed, her countenance marked by trepidation, I felt not the weight of vindication nor the pang of guilt, but rather a serene assurance that once the truth is uttered, it doth weave its own tapestry of justice. Upon the afternoon's gentle embrace, a missive from fair Martha Richards didst arrive. The closing of the beach house hath been thwarted. I deem it meet that thou shouldst be apprised, for they lay the blame upon thee to all who lend an ear. I did reply forthwith, expressing my gratitude for her tidings and my sorrow for the plight in which she finds herself. Swiftly came her answer, "Do not grieve. George and I are beginning to discern their true nature with greater clarity now. We ought to have heeded thy counsel in days of yore. Perchance that was the inaugural triumph, not the monetary repercussions I had unwittingly set in motion, but this humble recognition that I had not erred all along." For weeks hence, after departing from the confection, I did receive another summons from Laurel. This time I did respond. "Mother," she spake, her voice quaking with what seemed to be relief. "At last. Our hearts have been heavy with concern. Hast thou felt the same?" I inquired, striving to maintain a jesting air. "Indeed, we have. Thou hast vanished from our sight. Thou hast altered thy financial dealings without a word to us. Thou hast conferred with our companions in secrecy. I caught wind of thy utterances, Laurel. I interjected. Of thy wish for my downfall. Of thy yearning for a respite from my burdensome remonstrances. A silence, thick as the night, did stretch betwixt us. Nay, that was not to be, I declared. Do not wound my spirit with falsehoods now." He did weep, not with the artifice of tears I had oft beheld in recent days, but with what seemed to be true lamentations. "We meant not to offend. The weight of our cares hath pressed upon us. Thou dost call with such frequency, and thy voice doth echo with solitude, leaving us in a state of guilt. Such is the crux of our plight," I proclaimed. "Thou dost perceive my love as a heavy yoke, my entreaties as a duty most burdensome, my very presence as a trial to be borne. 'Tis not just," she did murmur. "Nor was it just to wish me to the grave," I did respond. "Yet here we stand. What dost thou seek from me?" she inquired at last. "Naught," I declared. "That is the crux of the matter. I desire nothing from thee henceforth. Not thy time, nor thy gaze, nor thy feigned fondness. Lo, I have altered my testament, severed the ties of my financial aid, and embarked upon a journey to forge a life unbound by the expectation of mere scraps from my sole progeny. Thou canst not simply cast us aside." Her voice did ascend, a tremor of dread creeping forth. "The closing of the beach house hath faltered. Our credit cards lie in ruin. Kent's progenitors inquire of loans we are unable to repay in this dire hour. And lo, there was naught but concern for mine own worth, for that which I could bestow. Is it thus that thou dost summon Laurel? To unstop the flow of gold once more? Nay, she did protest, yet too swiftly. I yearn to mend the bonds that bind us. I do love thee, mother. Dost thou? For love doth demand respect, and respect, verily, doth require truth. Thou hast not been truthful with me for many a year regarding thine emotions, thy coffers, and mine own standing in thy life. Nay, that is not so, quoth she, yet her tone bore no strength. When last didst thou come hither without a plea? When last didst thou ring me merely to converse, not to temper my hopes or erect some barrier? When last didst thou regard me as one cherished, rather than a duty to be tended? Her silence spoke volumes. Thou shalt find me no longer thy bank, fair Laurel. Nor shall I serve as thy emotional target for thy blows. Shouldst thou desire a bond with me, it must be forged anew, upon the foundations of mutual respect, true affection, and utter honesty. And if I cannot uphold these tenets, her voice grew resolute, the guise of victimhood fading, then our connection shall cease to exist. Thus it is, plain and clear. Thou wouldst select the path of righteousness or the sacred bond of motherhood. After all thy proclamations of kinship reigning supreme, indeed, family doth come first. I did acquiesce. Yet what thou and Kent hath revealed to me is naught but a guise of obligation, a masquerade of exploitation. I am worthy of more. This matter, prithee, is it not rooted in the pursuit of coin? she did exclaim with sudden clarity. Thou dost inflict upon us a burden most grievous, wrought from thine own wounded sentiments. Nay, Laurel, this matter doth concern the weight of consequence. Forsooth, perchance for the first occasion in thy mature existence, thy deeds towards me bear true repercussions. The fiscal strain is but the most palpable manifestation. Kent hath proclaimed that thou art oft manipulative. She did utter a final desperate thrust, claiming thou usest guilt as thy weapon to wield dominion over me. With mirthful heart, I did chuckle, forsooth, speaks the gentleman who did persuade me to vouch for loans to procure a dwelling by the shore, which thou didst declare beyond thy means. The irony, a feast for the senses, were it not steeped in sorrow. Thus, it is settled. 3 decades of maternal devotion, swept away by a single utterance thou didst chance upon. Nay, not swept away, dear Laurel. Rather, metamorphosed. Though I remain thy mother, my heart doth still cherish the child thou once wert and the woman thou may yet become. Yet, I can no longer abide the part thou hast cast me in, as a mere financial security blanket and emotional scapegoat. Shouldst thou desire a bond with me, it must be forged upon the foundation of truth, beginning with thine acknowledgment of the words I heard that fateful day. And if I were to offer an apology, if I were to utter the words, I am sorry, for what thou didst perceive, wouldst thou restore the assurances? Wouldst thou lend aid with the beach house? Even now, she could not disentangle affection from the coin of gain. Even now, an apology served as but a barter, lacking the balm of true healing. Farewell, dear Laurel, I uttered with gentle breath. When thou art prepared to discourse upon our bond, free from the taint of gold, thou knowest where to seek me. I severed the connection ere she could reply, feeling not the sweet taste of victory nor the bitter sting of loss, but rather a depth of emotion more profound. Serenity. At last, after many a year, I did utter my truth, unshackled by the dread of forsakenness. Forsooth, I had known abandonment in every sense that held weight. Beyond my casement, springtime had graced the earth. Unbeknownst to me, the maple tree, which Harold did plant, was awakening, verdant vows unfurling in eager pursuit of the sun's warm embrace. Anon, it shall bestow its shade upon the garden I did forsake last summer. Engrossed was I in the pursuit of a bond that thrived solely in the realm of my aspirations. This year, I shall again sow the seeds of tomatoes, and perchance, venture into the realm of the novel. Blueberries, or that asparagus which Theta hath urged me to embrace. Flora that, though they require years to take root, once established, yield their bounty for decades hence. At the age of 18, I found within me the yearning to cultivate that which endures, that which is true. 6 weeks hence the tempest, I did gather my kin to celebrate the anniversary of my birth amidst the verdant splendor of my abode in Millbrook. Not the lavish revelry that Laurel, my daughter, oft implored. Nay, she would have me engage the country club, to render the occasion grand. Yet, I sought a festivity that mirrored my essence. Feta graced the gathering, bringing forth her renowned potato salad, a dish of much renown. Lo! Harriet did approach, her tresses of fiery hue discernible from yonder 3 abodes. My circle of bridge, my fellowship of tomes, the fair ladies with whom I toiled at the library, these souls, cast aside to the fringes of mine existence, whilst I didst elevate those who esteemed me the least. And there came Zoe, who didst opt for our candid discourse, forsaking years of camaraderie with Laurel. As we didst prepare the cucumber sandwiches upon my mother's argent platters, she did confess her desire for me to take a stand betwixt them. She did declare that I was betraying her by gracing this day with my presence. And yet, lo! Here thou art, I did remark. Here I stand, she did concede. It appears that loyalty doth possess its bounds, particularly when one is bid to overlook the harshness of cruelty. We did partake of carrot cake, not the cherished recipe I had left upon Laurel's counter, but a novel creation of mine, infused with ginger and orange zest, and a whisper of cardamom. I did serve it upon my finest china, the set I had preserved for occasions deemed too trivial to merit their unveiling. Harriet did lift her chalice as the waning light of day did cast a golden hue upon my verdant expanse. To Birdie, who at the venerable age of 79 doth possess a bravery surpassing that of many a youth. To fresh starts, Theta did proclaim, and to the recognition of thine own value. I cast mine eyes upon these visages, some familiar through the sands of time, others but recent blooms in the garden of my existence, and felt a warmth swell within my breast. This bond, forged by kinship, was true and unfeigned. It was a union born of respect mutual, not of duty's heavy hand. The missive still bore Laurel's mark. Though less oft it comes, its intent remains sharp and keen. Mother, the purveyors of loans do inquire with pressing urgency. And Kent's chariot doth require mending, a burden we cannot bear at this hour. Lastly, I am at a loss to comprehend why thou dost chastise us with fiscal woes for but a fleeting remark. In silence I remained, for certain truths may only be grasped through the trials of existence, and Laurel's journey of enlightenment and its attendant tribulations continued unabated. Thus, I turned mine attention to the reconstruction of the life I had suspended, whilst seeking my daughter's favor. I did re-enter the library board, which I had forsaken at Laurel's behest, for it had claimed too much of my precious hours from kin. Upon the parchment of my life, I did inscribe my name for the art of watercolor at the community center, a pursuit long yearned for since the passing of dear Harold, yet oft neglected. Most notably, I took to the noble act of volunteering at the Millbrook Women's Shelter thrice a week, where I encountered many a resident of an age akin to that of fair Laurel. These women, in their quest for renewal, sought to mend the fragments of lives that had been lessened, rather than uplifted, by their past entanglements. In mine own humble service, I did assist with the crafting of resumes, engaged in the art of interview preparation, and oftentimes lent mine ear as they pondered the paths that led them to realms unforeseen. "Thou art not akin to the elder volunteers," spake a young maiden whilst we toiled upon her applications for employment. "Dost thou comprehend? How can one's heart be both a vessel of affection and a source of anguish, entwined in the paradox of love's embrace?" "I have, perchance, encountered such matters," quoth I. In the tales of these fair maidens, wherein manipulation and gaslighting do weave their dark threads, I discerned echoes of mine own tribulations. Varied in measure, yet akin in essence. When the matron of the refuge didst discover my intent to bequeath my fortune to her noble cause, she did insist upon treating me to a repast. "A most generous offering, dear Birdie. Pray, may I inquire the reason?" I did recount to her the tale of Laurel, of the whispered words I chanced upon, and the bitter truth of my own exploitation. "Thus, dost thou seek to chastise thy daughter?" She inquired, not to cast judgment, but to seek clarity. "Nay," I replied, after a moment's contemplation, "for it is a matter of honoring that which holds significance. These noble women toil with great resolve to reconstruct their lives, clad in dignity. My coin should find its haven where it shall nurture fortitude, not breed a sense of unwarranted claim." By the season of harvest, I had woven a cadence to my days that bore the essence of both novelty and reminiscence, akin to a reunion with a self I had long laid aside. I did plant those blueberry bushes, as Theta did counsel, and joined a gathering of elders who, each week, ventured forth to traverse the local paths of nature's bounty. Laurel did dispatch a card, crafted by the hands of commerce, bearing words most common and devoid of warmth, accompanied by a token of currency for a dining establishment most familiar. No personal missive graced the parchment, nor did she deign to recognize our last discourse. In return, I did send a courteous missive of gratitude, steadfast in the boundaries I had set. A show of civility, yet without surrender. The fiscal tribulations, alas, did persist for her and Kent. Through fair Martha, with whom I now did share the cup of coffee each month, I did learn that they had diminished their abode to one of lesser size. Unable to sustain the tutor without mine own financial aid, Kent had sought a second toil. Laurel, once dismissive of the trade of real estate as unworthy of her learned station, had taken to its practice. I found no joy in their tribulations, yet I did acknowledge their necessity. For an age unmeasured, I did shield them from the fateful fruits of their own design. Yet now, the hand of fate doth offer what my affection had withheld, the opportunity to flourish amidst trials. In the month of November, as the inaugural snow did grace my maple tree with its gentle touch, Zoe did summon me with tidings most profound. "Laurel," she proclaimed, "doth bear within her womb a child. She is near 3 moons along," Zoe did declare. "I deemed it meet that thou shouldst be informed." For several days did I ponder this knowledge, my emotions entwined as if in a skein of yarn, impossible to disentangle. A grandchild, a desire once cherished, now dimmed as the sands of time drew Laurel near to her 50th year. A new soul destined to emerge, transcending the intricacies of our bond. A life poised to blossom whilst others were reshaped anew. Upon deep reflection, I did dispatch to Laurel a missive. Not a mere text nor an electronic epistle, but a true card upon exquisite parchment. In simplicity I inscribed, "I have heard thy tidings. A wee babe doth alter all that is known. At times by their presence, at times by their absence doth they make their mark. I do beseech thee to acquire the sagacity to cherish that which holds the greatest worth. If thou dost desire to discourse upon a bond forged in mutual esteem, rather than one ensnared by the chains of coin, my threshold shall ever be ajar for thee." In matters of the heart, her silence was no surprise, for I had not anticipated her reply. Some seeds dost require time to sprout, if they dost grow at all. Half a year hence, following that tempestuous journey to Connecticut, I found myself in my humble kitchen, crafting a list of provisions for the feast of Thanksgiving. I did extend an invitation to fair Theta, noble Harriet, and a host of new-found companions from the shelter and the merry band of hikers. Those who had taken on the mantle of my beloved kin in this season of transformation. Lo, mine device did sound with a number most strange. Lo, I was on the brink of surrendering it to the silent realm of voicemail, yet the flame of curiosity did prevail. "Good morrow, Mrs. Matt. Hark! 'Tis Dr. Leland hailing from Hartford Memorial. Lo, thy daughter Laurel doth reside with me. She hath bid me to summon thee." Mine heart didst stutter. Is she in fair condition? She doth possess a steadfastness. She didst encounter some bleeding, and her heart was heavy with concern for the state of her pregnancy. We have conducted our trials, and all doth appear well, yet we shall retain her through the night for careful watch. Her lord doth journey forth on matters of his trade, and she hath beseeched me to reach out to thee. Gratitude I extend for thine tidings, I did declare, whilst mine thoughts did swiftly reckon the passage to Hartford. She did inquire as well. The physician, in a moment's pause, did then proceed with a gentler tone. She did inquire whether thou wouldst attend. She did bid me convey her apologies, yet only if thou didst truly mean the words inscribed upon thy card. I didst close mine eyes for but a fleeting moment. Pray, convey to her that I shall arrive in 3 hours' time. The passage to Hartford bore no resemblance to that Odyssey 6 moons past. Without the gentle fall of rain, there be no sweet confection, nor the eager hope of bliss, nor the sorrow that may follow in its wake. Lo, the clear November sun doth shine, whilst the steady hum of my chariot upon the highway doth bear me forth, toward a discourse wrought of 6 months and 3 decades in the weaving. Laurel, in her chamber of healing, appeared diminutive upon the cot, her delicate hand laid tenderly upon the gentle rise of her womb. Upon her gaze alighting upon me, her eyes brimmed with tears. Not those who wielded deceit with cunning artifice, of whom I had become most cautious, but rather a truth more radiant, more sincere. "Didst thou arrive?" quoth she with simplicity. "Thou didst inquire," quoth I, as I took my seat beside her resting place. In stillness we lingered, the rhythmic beeping of monitors and the faint echoes of the hospital's din weaving a tapestry twixt us. "A therapist I have sought," she spake at last, "since the fateful beach house did not come to pass. In the beginning, it was but a means to assuage the burdens of the mind, yet she cast her gaze upon her hands. It hath transcended mere bounds. I did bide my time, granting her the liberty to proceed. She did inquire of me, queries most rare, regarding the source of my disdain for thy summons, the cause of my sense of duty over true bond, and how I could utter such harsh words of one who had bestowed upon me naught but affection. Laurel didst raise her gaze, locking her eyes with mine. I possessed not the answers of worth. And now I did inquire with gentle breath. Now I find myself awakening to the truth, that I have, for many a year, inflicted upon thee a burden of my own making. Forsooth, in solitude I dwell, since the passing of my father hath left me bereft. For thy need of me when I did crave mine own freedom, to depict a life of simplicity whilst I toiled with fervor to construct that which might dazzle the eye. Her voice did falter. For thy boundless affection bestowed upon me, even when I was unable to bestow such love upon mine own self. It was not a full accounting of all that hath transpired. Such matters require the passage of many a year, not merely a few fleeting months. Yet, lo, it was a commencement, a seed piercing the stubborn earth. The matters of coin, she did continue. Losing the seaside abode, the act of downsizing did compel me to undertake that second toil. It hath been a struggle, truly a grievous trial. Yet mine own therapist doth declare, as she bestowed a gentle watery laugh, she doth proclaim it the finest fortune that hath befallen us, that we were crafting a life upon mere semblances rather than true communion. And what dost thou believe? I did inquire. Methinks she speaks truth. And I do believe thou wert aware of this from the very start. Laurel, with a gentle hand, didst reach forth towards mine, her touch a whisper of uncertainty. I seek not for riches, dear mother, nor for promises of the tangible kind. Nay, I yearn to forge anew a bond of substance ere the arrival of this child. As I clasped her hand, the warmth of her flesh didst mingle with my own. I too would cherish such a thing. Yet, we left the hospital that day with many a matter unresolved. True mending is not a fleeting instant, but a journey replete with trials and humble triumphs. In the months that ensued, we forged anew our habits. Weekly gatherings over coffee, where matters of coin were banished from discourse, and rare family feasts where our exchanges delved deeper than mere superficialities. Yet, Kent found himself wrestling more with this fresh accord. His allure, a coin of charm, did swiftly lose its worth when not bartered for tangible gain. Yet, for the sake of fair Laurel and the babe soon to grace our world, he endeavored. As for me, I clung steadfast to the life I had wrought in our time apart. The haven for women still held a place in my testament, though I did decree a trust for the education of my grandchild. Mine friendships did flourish, as the roots of my blueberry bushes did take hold. I persisted in the art of watercolor, traversed the local paths, and concocted new recipes, each a creation of mine own design. Some may deem my actions as revenge. I would rather regard them as the fruits of consequence. At the age of 79, I have at last discerned that love devoid of respect is naught but a hollow semblance of love. And verily, at times the gentlest act thou canst bestow upon thyself and others is to cease the masquerade. The rain doth descend anew, not as a tempest to endure, but as a herald that even the most arduous trial shall pass, leaving the realm purified and poised for what may follow. The carrot cake I conjure in these days hath less sweetness and more zest. Like unto myself, perchance. As the truth doth liberate our souls, so this morn, whilst I didst blend the batter for a novel concoction, mine device didst illuminate with a missive from fair Laurel. An image of the ultrasound, a diminutive visage in shades of black and white, accompanied by the humble words, "Thy granddaughter. Thou hast his nose." With a tender touch, I did caress the screen, this portal to a future I had oft doubted I would behold. Then I did return to mine art of baking, folding in fresh ingredients, conjuring forth a creation that had ne'er graced this earth before. Much akin to the life I did weave at the age of 79. One honest discourse, one boundary set, one choice made at a time. The timer did chime. It was the hour to withdraw the cake from the oven. Time to advance. Eyes wide, heart wary yet not shut. Lo, it is time to embrace the truth that certain odysseys commence not with a weary trek of 9 hours through tempestuous rain, but with the valor to declare, "Enough! I am of greater worth than this." We all possess such worth. At what tender age didst thou come to cherish thyself above the expectations of others? 'Tis never too late to draw the line and embark anew. Be thou 29, 59, or 79, Bird's journey doth remind us that self-respect is not an act of selfishness, but rather a necessity most profound. Pray, share this tale if thou hast ever ventured forth to seek thine own essence. Follow hence for more chronicles of fortitude, rebirth, and the gentle bravery required to commence anew. Recall, thou art never too aged to concoct a fresh recipe for thy